About 10 years ago, with the boom of social media, what we've seen is that consumers have become creators. Anyone is a content creator. And so I think that is the biggest shift that I think brands don't really internalize as much. All of a sudden, consumers now own their data. Actually, consumers know better. They not only get paid, they not only get free product from you as a brand, but they also are going to be able very soon to sell you that data directly. I think brands will have to shift as well in not just consuming data, but becoming data creators.
When you say consumer shifts, and what have you experienced, and what do you think the shifts are going to continue to present in terms of challenges and opportunities for brands?
Yeah, so that's actually the biggest thing. This is the biggest opportunity that I think I've noticed, I've observed, and this is why I'm so excited about what I'm building, is because I think the next phase is all about digital value creation as opposed to a traditional exchange of value as we know it. And I just basically today I launched my latest newsletter about this topic. You know, Coca-Cola and Microsoft just recently announced a $1 billion agreement over the next 5 years. And if you think Microsoft, it's not just Microsoft, it's OpenAI. And so you can imagine how that transformation is going to look like, powered by AI in a big corporation as Coca-Cola. Now, nobody seems to have noticed this, and I haven't seen anyone really from the marketing sphere, talk about it. It seemed more to be as a tech news, but I interpret it as a big shift in mindset for brands like Coca-Cola, and I think bigger, other big brands are going to, follow suit because, here's the deal. The way you can understand that agreement between Coca-Cola and Microsoft is like this. In the past, brands and consumers who used to interact in a very traditional way. So if I'm a brand and I'm creating a product, it used to be that I would buy consumer insights to understand what you as a consumer are into. And then I would develop a product for you based on those needs that I find through data. And then I would create that product. I would sell it to you. You would buy it from me. And then I would, create again another product. And then the cycle would continue. Now, about 10 years ago, with the boom of social media, what we've seen is that consumers have become creators. And at the beginning, it was just a handful of people that were influencers, and it wasn't so accessible for everyone to create content. The platforms were not so developed. Smartphones were not so developed. However, fast forward to today, you, me, your neighbor, your cat, your dog, your baby, anyone, you're the CEO of a Fortune 500 company is a content creator. And so I think that is the biggest shift that I think brands don't really internalize as much. So they still think about influencers and them as, product creators. But I look at it as in there's a huge value exchange shift in, with regards to that, because all of a sudden consumers now own their data. Actually, consumers know better their followers than brands do. And so they own the data, that data. They not only get paid, they not only get free product from you as a brand, but they also are going to be able very soon to sell you that data directly. And so when you think about, the fact that at scale, 1 billion people around the world or 8 billion people around the world have access to internet and have access to this technology, the bigger question for me is, where does brand loyalty, stay within that equation? Because if I, as a brand, I'm going to not be able to just simply sell you the product, but you're going to have to be influenced. You're going to have to be paid. I'm going to have to buy your data. There's going to be a whole different level of exchange of value in between us. And then I think brands will have to shift as well in not just consuming data, but becoming data creators. And that can be done through IP creation that is digital, that is scalable, that doesn't have a cap. And obviously you have to do it by being relevant, which, you and I know that, with social media is absolutely crucial today.
Yeah, there's a lot there. When you say about brand loyalty shifts, what do you mean by that exactly? Do you mean there's less loyalty? There'll be less loyalty from a brand perspective with their consumers?
I mean, maybe a little dramatic, but the way that I want to say is that I think that brand loyalty is completely dead. I don't believe in brand loyalty anymore. You know, you didn't have so many options. There were not a lot of options in the past. So, of course, you were growing up with a product and then there was a certain loyalty to it. You weren't changing so much. You know, like you were buying a pair of sneakers and you were wearing them until they were worn out. And of course, you were loyal to them. You know, you had so many memories attached to that product. But now with consumerism, with so many options of product and brands out there, with, you know, TikTok made me buy this and that and the other, well, it's just not possible to retain that level of loyalty just because we want so many things. We change things so quickly. And of course, there's different components. It's not completely true that it's that. I think, you know, I want to make a point here, but I think, of course, there are examples where maybe a Louis Vuitton bag, you pay a lot more money for that bag. It's not so attainable. So, of course, you put more care into it. Maybe you wear it a bit more, and maybe you like that brand more. But when I think about maybe like 90% of the brands out there and the products that we consume, it's just not possible to be loyal to one single brand because, you know, trends are changing fast. As I said, consumerism is the highest point right now. And we as consumers have changed a lot as well. So yeah, I just don't believe it exists anymore.
That is a big, bold statement. That's there you go. There's the title for the podcast. Brand loyalty is dead. So
quote me.
You know, and I think to a degree, and it's a big challenge for brands, right? It's for many reasons, because customer acquisition costs rising. How do you, as you scale, continue to find new pockets of consumers and do that in a profitable way? So brand loyalty is seen as the more predictable path of growth, right? If we can just keep these people coming back, then it will offset our acquisition costs. But to your point, in a world where there's more options, everyone's a creator. If there's more people also being sent free product and establishing partnerships with different brands. So how do brands either solve for that, or how do they adapt to that?
I think that the way brands solve for this is building a pipeline of consumers, of new consumers. I'm not really sure how much you can have consumers come back over and over and over. I think this is where I think this part of brand loyalty, I don't really believe in it anymore, just because I think consumers have too many options. And so at scale, I don't really think that's possible. So I think that's where the biggest issue with growth is, because you can't really, you know, expect consumers to come back. And I don't think you can bet on it as a brand.